There we go. So, whenever you're ready, Simon.
Okay, I am.
Good enough.
Okay. Hello, I'm Simon Mersep, and welcome to Crave. This is the podcast and the video cast dedicated to all manner of entertainments that have been interesting me and Steve McCabe lately.
Yeah, we got a bit of a selection this week, haven't we?
Yeah. We're heavy on the music.
Well, heavy on the music because there's been an awful lot of it. Very densely crammed into one rather enjoyable day. We had the Laneway Festival just a couple of days ago, Auckland Anniversary Day. We'll be talking about that.
Yeah, and not only talking about it, Steve, I think we should point out
yes.
As well as hearing what Steve's got to say about it now, you can go to our website, cravepodcast.com, where Steve has not only written up a review of his day at Laneway.
Quite a day it was too.
And quite a day, but it's cram-packed with some tasty photographs.
Oh, you're too kind, sir. You're too kind.
That you took of a number of the acts.
Yes.
Not all of the acts.
No.
Which you will tell us about shortly. But I strongly recommend you get to Steve's review on cravepodcast.com.
Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind. We'll also, while we're on the subject of music, we'll also be hearing about Bastille.
Not the day.
Not the day, no.
The band.
Or indeed the place.
No.
No, the band, indeed. Yes, absolutely.
Courtesy of our guest reviewer.
Our intrepid guest reviewer.
Debbie.
who saw them at Spark Arena last week.
Yes.
Now, moving away from films.
Yes.
Hold on. I'll try that again, shall I?
Okay.
Moving away from music and moving to films.
Yes, so we've got a really interesting film to talk about. We both saw a preview of the latest Clint Eastwood directed film, A True Story, based on the events of 1986 at the Atlanta Olympics. A bloke called Richard Jewell,
Yes.
who is falsely accused of bombing
Yes.
the Olympics.
Yes. Which sounds on paper like it should be the most grim and worthy film you'll ever see, doesn't it? It doesn't sound promising. Do you know what else didn't sound promising?
Oh, let me think.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Like a Boss as well.
Like a Boss, it's called.
So, yeah.
Not like a film, though.
And we shall indeed be talking about it like a boss. Oh, dear Lord. So I think we should just crack on.
Okay, let's go. Let's start with the music, because that's been the big event of the week. We're talking about the Laneway Festival, or as you put it correctly in your review, Steve, its proper title is the St. Jerome's Laneway Festival 20 in Auckland's Albert Park. It's got lots of stages, it's got lots of acts all through the day. You were there, had the time of your life nearly.
Well,
There's a lot to talk about. Let's start early on and work our way through the day.
So, let's start with the history of it a little bit. This has been going on for quite a few years now. It started off in Australia, in Melbourne, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And they do several Australian cities, and they've, I think for about 5 years now, included Auckland in the mix. So you've got, like, central Auckland, you've got Albert Park, completely fenced off. And it's all, you could almost imagine that Albert Park had been laid out with Laneway in mind. That's how ideal it is. And if it's like I'm gushing a bit, because I'm really impressed, apart from anything else, with how well the day is produced.
Okay.
So Princess Street, where you got the clock tower there from the university, is completely boxed off, and at one end of it, there's the main stage.
Okay.
Other end of the park, by the rotunda, you've got a second stage. Further down by the fountain, you've got a third stage, and then down one of the little side streets, there is a fourth stage.
Okay.
And there's, I'm trying to think, probably about 3 dozen acts sort of rotating through these 4 stages during the course of the day.
Okay.
And so we're starting off earlier in the day, for example, saw a young woman named Stella Donnelly, who I don't think I've ever seen anyone so genuinely delighted.
Yeah.
It was the most adorably ingenuous thing. She started off performing, just her with a guitar around her neck, and the biggest grin and smiles. It's like, I can't believe
I'm here.
I actually got to do this. And it was brilliant. It really was. And then she starts singing. It's fairly sort of straightforward, sort of catchy guitar pop, with very, very bitterly, cynically observent lyrics.
Okay.
The almost, but don't quite jar. But she makes it work because she's got everything about her is honest and fun and sweet doesn't really do it justice. That's a bit dismissive, but her lyrics have a real punch to them. So she was fantastic.
Okay.
She then brings the rest of the band out on stage, and just to remind us all that we we don't really even belong here. So every single show that they've done, they have a different baby photo of one member of the band projected on the screen behind, just to keep them grounded. So I was very, very impressed with her.
Stella Donnelly.
Welsh via Western Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. One to look out for. She was really good.
Okay.
Then over to the Princess stage for an American chap by the name of Omar Apollo.
Great name.
Well, I mean, this guy knows, I think, probably to about 17 decimal places exactly how gorgeous he is.
I'm not so attracted to that sort of attitude on stage, I don't think.
No, but he knew. He knew. But also,
okay.
to be fair, so did most of the people to the other side of the barrier. But he's kind of got something to back it up. If you haven't got the goods, then don't do it. But he kind of does. So you're talking sort of 70s-ish funky pop that's been kind of updated for the modern day, but you can still hear the 70s funk in it.
Okay.
But what you can also hear is his uncle's influence from Mexico.
Oh.
Yes, I mean, at least one song was sung completely in Spanish.
Okay.
So he's one to look out for. He's kind of up and coming.
Omar Apollo.
Okay. Exactly.
So not a name you're going to forget in a hurry.
No, absolutely. Nor Indian outfit, to be perfectly honest. There were a couple of absolute duds.
Okay.
I'm going to mention. There was one guy by the name of Earl Sweatshirt.
Yeah, no.
The name should say. So there were three different acts whose entire act was a guy standing at a desk with basically computer samples playing music, and then out comes a rapper to rap over them. Oh, yeah. Now, I'll be honest, that's not a genre that speaks to me.
Okay. And
so he's seen a couple of these guys doing this already, and the one fella, Coltrane, didn't like the music, but he put on a hell of a good show. You could tell he knew what it was about. Another guy, BB No Money, basically bopped around the screen like a chimpanzee. I was not impressed. But on comes Earl Sweatshirt. Or at least on comes his DJ, playing samples that were so loud and so bass heavy that standing in the photo pit, all I wanted to do was get out. It was uncomfortable.
It's not the effect you're looking for as an artist, is it?
No, it wasn't. But that was the high point.
Okay.
After about 5 minutes of this, if your man's sort of standing behind the desk, half the time he's just like, having a quick ciggy and then pouring himself a drink while these beats are playing, and then finally out comes Earl Sweatshirt himself, and he sounded, quite frankly, like Yoko Ono being stung by a wasp.
I'm not sure what to say to that, Steve. I'm getting some sort of a image in my eardrums about that.
Is it a positive vibe?
No.
There you go. In that case, you're probably about right. I took 2 or 3 photos and I left because I couldn't stand to be there any longer.
Okay.
It was horrible. So then I went back to the Princess stage. A new Australian lad by the name of Jewell.
Jewell.
Yes, I'd never heard of him before.
Okay.
But apparently the kids had. So there's one young lady just to the side of the barrier, and I thought, I recognise you. You've been standing in that same spot right at the very front. And so before Rule came on, I said, you have been there all this time? And he said, oh yeah, I got here at noon. I said, and you're just waiting for this guy? Oh, I'm waiting for him in the 1975, who were coming on at 9 o'clock. So I said, you've been standing there all this time? She
Very
said,
dedicated.
yeah, I can't actually feel my legs. So fair enough. But on came Rule. And if you thought Omar Apollo was gorgeous, I mean, this guy's got the best hair I've ever seen.
Don't talk to me about hair. Go on.
No,
yes.
Well, it's certainly better hair than you or I, certainly.
That would be hard.
Also, the worst trousers.
Okay.
But take a look at the photos on the website for that. But here's the thing, right? 17-year-old Aussie lad. Crowd are going gaga for him.
Yes.
He's got all his backing band all wearing sort of tracksuity, prison uniformy type things with his name on them. And it was some of the most insipid, watered down. I mean, I tried listening to some of it afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, it's like Justin Bieber easy listening, but not in a good way.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
So Rule was an Aussie?
Yes.
Not from Britannia?
No, Ruel. Apparently he's Dutch or something. He's like Rudolph or something. I can't remember. The less I have to think about him, the better, really, to be perfectly honest. So the days sort of plodded on. There were a few good ones. Oddly enough, the Aussies were good again this year.
Okay.
Hockey Dad.
Yes.
Were great fun. They're New South Wales somewhere, I couldn't tell you where. But unremarkable, unpretentious, straight ahead guitar rock. But great fun with it.
Okay.
The Chats are from, I believe, Queensland. And basically sort of, skater punk. and having a great time with it.
Yes.
They were having nearly as much fun as I think as the audience watching them.
Yes.
So they were. I mean, there was an awful lot of really, really good, entertaining stuff. There was King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I know, possibly the second best named band of the day.
King Gizzard, Lizard, and the Wizard?
King Gizzard. And the Lizard Wizard.
And the Lizard Wizard.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they needed such a big name because there's so many of them on stage. I mean, 2 drummers playing in unison.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a big sound.
It was huge. And I love the fact that the guitar player actually had his car keys on his belt as he was playing. This is a nice little detail. But their name wasn't quite as good as my favourite name of the day, the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. Exactly.
The psychedelic porn. P-A...
No, P-O-R-N.
Oh, P-O...
Crumpets.
Crumpets,
yeah.
Okay.
And actually, to be fair, those 2 bands, they had a lot in common. There's like sort of slightly experimental, slightly wig-outy, very intense, sort of, I don't know, experimental rock. So as you can see, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, a huge amount.
There's all kinds of stuff.
You're doing very well to relay all this back to us.
I mean, this was my day.
Yes.
I put it this way: on pedometer on my watch told me I definitely got my steps in that day.
Excellent.
Mahalia, young woman from Leicester, in England, lovely, rich soul voice. She was really quite a strong presence on stage. I was quite taken with her. Who else was there? There was Then we've got the disappointments.
Yeah.
I have to
Because
mention
you
these.
said, there were a couple of big acts you were looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, well, the 2 headline acts,
Yeah.
2 big names, and they were going to be on opposite stages, opposite ends of the arena, because they're obviously clearly playing to different audiences, but they're both acts I've seen before and both acts that I've liked.
Okay.
It's Charlie XCX, who is it's techno pop, very high energy, really, really entertaining. I mean, she opened for Taylor Swift.
Okay, I remember you talking about Charlie XCX.
And she was very good.
Okay.
And before that, I'd seen her opening for Sia, when she was also very, very good. Then I enjoyed shooting her both times. She was really, really good.
That's photographs.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes. Obviously. Yeah. She was in my lens. And then there was the 1975, my local band. They're from Cheshire. And I saw them at the Town Hall, I think about 5 years ago, when they were still up and coming.
Okay.
They're now one of the hottest properties in the world. They're huge.
Do you know how to pick them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they're from Manchester, what can I tell you? So, morning of the show, went to get my photo pass, and I thought, okay, go off you go, do your shooting. It's first 3 songs of each act, except the 1975. Only the Laneway approved photographer will be shooting. Oh, that's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing. I'll not be able to shoot them. Now, we do have form with this. Florence and the Machine did this to us last year, about 3 hours before they were due on stage. They said, we got a message saying, sorry, no one's shooting them.
Okay.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
But, they can do what they want.
Yeah, of course.
But we prefer it if they didn't do it the way Charlie XCX did it, which was 10 minutes before she was due on stage.
Yeah.
Suddenly, her manager came out and said, sorry, closed pit, only her own photographer. So I didn't even bother watching it. I was not impressed with that in the slightest.
No. Now, so, excuse me, I just have to say, most of the audience won't be in the position to have photo passes anyway.
Nope.
So for people who just went along there just to enjoy the music, you didn't stay for Charlie.
I sort of stayed for a wee bit,
Yeah, and then you went across. Did you see the 1975?
Stay for them for a wee bit as well,
And just in terms of their performance, what would you report?
Pretty decent.
Okay.
Charlie XCX, possibly I'm being cynical now, possibly I'm a bit bitter.
Yeah.
But third time I've seen her now, and I'm starting to think that the shtick's wearing a bit thin for me, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
She, if you will pardon the language, she comes out and says, I'm Charlie XCX and I like to fucking party.
Yeah.
You think, okay, it's a bit try hard, really, to be fair, isn't it? But she got a very good reception.
Okay.
I tried getting close to the stage with my camera. Couldn't, because there was too many people having too much of a good time.
So there you are.
So clearly my opinion matters not one whit. Same's true of the 1975. I couldn't get anywhere near them, but I did stay for a couple of songs. They were sounding good.
Okay.
They're hard to pin down, really, to be honest. Sort of like slightly arty modern rock. There's it's your basic keyboards and guitar.
Yeah.
but there's a little bit to them.
Okay.
There's a bit more depth than you'd imagine.
Okay. Now listen, there's one other act I'd like to hear about.
There's one more we need to mention, yes.
And this is a local man who we've both seen. We've heard him on Crave in the past in an interview. He's an effortlessly talented young fellow by the name of Marlon Williams.
And effortlessly talented, I think, is a very, very fair way to describe it. Because he was drafted in, I think, maybe 2 weeks in advance, maybe 1 week, I can't remember. What was it? DC Fontaine pulled out album recording commitments. Meant that Laneway wasn't important enough. So, fair enough. And so they got in Marlon Williams at the very last minute. So, first of all, the guy's not had a huge amount of time to
prepare.
Yes, but he's got his band together and they show up. And it was after a very, very high-intensity day where you got a lot of bands who are really doing the I'm here to party bit and really, really trying hard. If I say he didn't try, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have to try. That's the thing about Marlon.
Yeah.
Is it feels effortless.
It feels like he's at ease on stage.
Yeah, there you go.
He is natural.
Yes.
It's not like you're not feeling that he's having to try hard because it's just in him.
That's the way it came across. And I know we sound like we're gushing here, but there is a lot to gush about.
Yeah. And he's got a great voice.
Oh, he's got a lovely, rich, warm voice. Like I wrote in my review, it was at the end of the day, it was like just pulling on a nice warm pair of slippers. It just felt right. And he had the audience just lapping it up because the engagement with the audience. I mean, how many other acts do you know can write a song about the 2019 New Zealand Bird of the Year? The hoi hoi, since you asked. It's and not make it come across as being gimmicky or cheesy or cutesy.
Yeah.
But actually feel sincere.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely lovely. Yeah. And so that's how I rounded out my day, and it's a really, really good day out.
Yeah, fantastic.
There's 12,000 people there. The bars were doing good business, but there's no trouble at all. The energy just feels good.
Yeah.
Beautiful, warm, sunny day.
Yes.
There's places to sit. There's free water. There's loads of food on the go. It feels like a very well put on, well organised, and a really, really enjoyable kind of day.
Fantastic.
I'm really glad I went.
Good. And again, just go to cravepodcast.com for Steve's written review and for a selection of his photographs of the day. Okay, Steve, you're going to take a wee break, and we're going to talk about some other music with Debbie.
Okay.
All right, we've done our traditional chair swap on Crave when we talk to Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
So Steve's just been telling us about a whole day out, outside at Albert Park, Auckland for Laneway.
Sounds great,
which sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And you were recently in a different sort of concert experience inside.
That's right.
At Spark Arena. Mm-hmm. Who did you see?
I saw Bastille.
And you can see the blank look on my face. Yeah. Tell me about Bastille, because I'm not familiar with them.
Bastille, they're a British band. They're kind of pop indie. They formed in about 2010. So they've been around for a little while.
Yeah.
But not too long. So.
And you were familiar with them at all?
Yeah, I was familiar with their music. I've heard a few songs and some of their popular songs, but I wasn't really into them. Mm-hmm. But really enjoyed the concert. Although I have to tell you that it was bleak, nihilistic, and depressing.
Hold on. I need to absorb that. Yeah. You enjoyed it, but it was bleak, nihilistic, and depressing.
It was indeed. And
Tell me what that means.
Those were the words of Dan Smith, who was the lead vocalist. And the concert tour was their Doomdays album.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. So he actually did describe their music as bleak, nihilistic, and depressing.
Was it depressing? It sounds like it wasn't, though.
The lyrics really kind of are, in a way. Yeah. But they really, the music isn't, I'm not really sure how to describe it.
Yeah.
But, it's got that indie pop sound.
Yes.
But the lyrics are about the Doomdays. There's quite a bit of that. And they had some really cool graphics. So the first thing that I think everybody noticed when we first went into the arena was that it was very small. It was like half the size. Okay. They really pulled the stage a lot. And they blanked out seats on either side of the stage, so everybody had a great view.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the usual, screens with the performers on the screen.
They didn't need them.
They didn't need them because it was really pretty small, actually. But they did have a really cool screen in the background that had, for quite a bit of it, it had like a window, and different things were sort of happening in the window. So in the beginning, it was kind of like a normalish kind of, I don't remember the details, but kind of a normalish city. Yeah. And then there was, various sort of doomsday things happening, and there was some bleak landscape at the end and stuff like that. So it kind of told a little bit of a story, their graphics. Okay.
And I'm interested to know how they performed on stage, because if your music is stirring and getting people going, but the lyrics are kind of different. Yeah. Like the front man, how was he interpreting this in his movements and how he gave it
boppy. He bopped around the stage quite a bit. And he claimed to not be a very good dancer, but he was quite energetic, and I thought it was quite fun. Okay. So, but he really got the crowd going a lot, because he said, look, I'm not a good dancer. I want you guys out there, doing whatever you can. And so there was a lot of crowd interaction.
What sort of an age group were we talking about in the audience here? Are they a younger person's sort of a band? Or
I think so. I'm trying to think. So where I was in the pit, there were quite a few people, probably in their mid-20s.
Okay.
But I did see a woman to my left who was, she must have been well into her 40s, I'm guessing.
That old?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But she, like, a few times, because I kind of look around, I like to see, what are people doing and stuff, and she was into it, and she was mouthing the lyrics and all this stuff. And then there's another woman to my right who I figured was probably close to that age as well. But it seemed like a good mix, and it was a lot of men and women, so both. There was a really good mix of a crowd, and it was a really nice crowd. They're not always nice crowds at these concerts, but this is a nice crowd.
Oh, cool.
So, it was good. There was a really good vibe to the crowd. Everyone just had such a great time. It was a really fun concert.
Okay, Bastille.
Bastille. And so, I looked it up later.
Yes.
Because I was curious, because they're an English band.
Yeah.
It turns out that Dan Smith, who is the lead vocalist, his birthday is the 14th of July. So,
it's a rather egotistical way to come up with a band's name on my birthday. But
well, I think the whole band kind of decided that from what I read. Yeah, so, but I'm trying to think of what else to tell you about it.
Well, while you're thinking...
Those are kind of the main points, really.
Yeah. And I was just thinking what you were saying about the music taking you in one direction, perhaps, and the lyrics perhaps another.
Yeah.
And Steve's going to have a wry grin on this if he ever gets to listen to this, but it made me think of a Springsteen song.
Oh, okay.
One of his most famous ones was Born in the USA.
Right.
And the music is very stirring and sounds patriotic.
Yeah.
And at the time when it came out in the 80s, the then President Reagan was talking about Springsteen as being, like a patriotic poster boy for the country. Yeah. But the lyrics were all about the Vietnam War and how veterans were mistreated when they came home. So it was actually a very angry, anguished song.
I need to listen to that.
They're very simple lyrics, but it's just a classic example of the music makes you feel one way, and if you're actually listening to the lyrics, it's another message.
And I think that would be similar to
nihilistic and depressing. Oof.
That's what. He actually did describe it that way. So the music was fun, and the crowd had a great time, and it was a really good concert, and I would definitely see them again. In fact, I'm gonna download their album. So. Yeah.
What better recommendation?
I really enjoyed it.
Good. Thanks, Debbie.
Okay.
All I can come out is you. There must be something in the Kool-Aid, cruising through the blue days. God knows what is real and what is fake. Lost couple years I've been imagining. How'd you look so perfect? You must have some portraits to be attic. Must be a flight so no one gets hurt. Hiding from the real world, just don't the comments have.
Well, we've got decent amount of music to talk about today. What else have we got, Simon?
Yeah, well, we've got, by the way, I don't know if people...
Go ahead.
Yeah. People probably don't realise this watching, but we've actually got a Lazy Susan revolving set of chairs.
You can't give our production secrets away.
Oh, damn. Okay, that's how we swap chairs so easily. Anyway,
no one's supposed to know this.
So we've had some great music, but we both went along a little while back to see a preview of a film that hasn't yet come out. That's due out pretty soon.
Yes.
Another one by Clint Eastwood.
How many has he done now?
It's officially a lot.
Yeah. Well, he's in his 90s, isn't he?
I think he's going to turn 90 this year.
Sheesh. Wow.
So he would have been 89 when he directed this film called Richard Jewell. Mm-hmm. And, well, let's just take a minute to say what it's all about, because it's based on a true account of a man called Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
He was a security guard working at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics.
Yes.
And as part of the Olympic venue, there was an entertainment area, a concert playing, and at one point during the Olympics, a bomb went off.
Yes.
Killing a few people, injuring many more. He was the man who actually noticed it, called in police and other security officials to try and clear the crowd.
Yes.
With some success.
Yes.
Initially hailed as a hero, but once the FBI started profiling and assessing and thinking about it, they ended up thinking he did it.
On the flimsiest of pretexts.
Yeah, on the pretext that he was one of those sort of people who was desperate to be a real, honest-to-goodness law enforcement officer.
Yes.
And wanted to put himself into the scene and into the investigation.
Yes.
So he did it to put himself there.
Yeah.
And the film takes us through all that, gives us a sense of this guy, Richard Jewell, played by Paul Walter Hauser.
Yes.
Who, let's face it, had an interesting personality where he really, really lived and breathed law enforcement, didn't he?
Yeah, he was. So he's kind of schlubby, and I mean, he's obviously visibly a loser. He's massively overweight. He's not particularly overly intelligent. He's very naive and simplistic in his thinking, but honest and innocent
and trusting,
naive to a fault.
Yeah.
Which comes relevant in the story.
Yes.
Because he's in what I think is possibly the one misstep of the entire film. At the very beginning, he's a supply clerk for a legal office, and there's one lawyer who's nice to him.
Yep.
And that is Watson Bryant, played splendidly
by Sam Rockwell.
Ooh, isn't he good?
Yeah, he's good.
I mean, those two together are absolutely phenomenal. But I think plays him a little bit oversimplistically. He's almost like there's something wrong with him to begin with, like a little bit overdone. But as he then goes on to become, he's a campus security guard at one point. Then he's a policeman briefly, I think.
Yes.
I forget the exact machinations that lead him to be out of the force again, but then he ends up as a security guard, and he desperately wants to be a copper.
Yes.
He wants to be hanging out with the law enforcement dudes.
Yes.
They kind of tolerate him and string him along.
Yeah, because as you say, he's a bit of a socially, he's a bit of a loser, for want of a better word.
He
still lives with his mum, Bobby, played by Kathy Bates, wonderfully well, and so his world revolves around being with his mum and wanting to be a law enforcement officer. That's
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
And so he has this brief meeting with the Sam Rockwell's character earlier on, and then years later, he's working at Atlanta, gets caught up in the bomb. The FBI come along. John Hamm plays the FBI agent Tom Shaw, who's leading the investigation, who starts to think, oh, this chap Richard might be our man. And so Richard calls on his lawyer mate he's met years before, Sam Rockwell, who comes in to help him out.
Yeah.
And so, as you say, the interplay between those two guys works incredibly well.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't. It's a very unlikely combination.
Yes.
But yeah, Watson Bryant is a lawyer who's completely down on his luck. We're not quite sure why.
No.
But clearly he picks up this case because he's not overly burdened with other cases.
Yes.
He's getting nagged a little bit by his secretary, we think.
That's the character Nadia, played by Nina Arianda.
Yeah, we think
some nice interplay there.
Yes, their relationship is very, very delicately undefined, isn't it?
Yes, nicely done.
So basically, the way the whole thing plays out is all these characters interact with each other in a very, very nuanced and realistic and believable way, and that's part of the brilliance of what Eastwood does. There is nothing flashy, there's nothing dramatic, there's nothing overblown about.
His storytelling style, yes, is very straightforward.
Yes.
He doesn't rely on gimmicky tricks in his directing. It's quite... this doesn't sound a bit of a criticism, but it's kind of ordinary directing. He's just letting the story do the work.
I think that's a fairer way of putting it.
And the characters do the work.
Yeah.
And it's a good script.
Yeah.
And the actors do very, very well. And there's a lot of use of actual news footage from the time.
There is, isn't there? Yes.
Which really makes you really understand this is what happened.
Yeah.
There's been a controversy around this film, and having been a journalist for a long time, I could see why, and that's the fact that one of the main protagonists is a a reporter from the local Atlanta newspaper. Her real name was Kathy Scruggs.
Yes.
Played by Olivia Wilde.
Yes.
And she is played as a bit, well, to be frank, a bit of a hussy. Who's
Yeah.
willing to use her body and her feminine wiles to get a story, to sweet talk the FBI agent into giving a story up, and even to go as far to to sleep with him. I think at one point, or it looks like it.
It's certainly hinted at, yes.
Yeah. So and so she is shown to be an immoral character who's willing to do anything to get the story.
I think the impression he's trying to give is journalistic gold digger, really, isn't it?
Yes.
But then, even if you're okay with that, she then, once she's decided that she's got the story, she kind of digs her heels in.
Yeah.
And even when, what's his name? I can fit the name. Watson Bryant.
Yes.
Confronts her.
Yeah.
And says, "There's no way my client could do it." He says, "I don't care. I've got my story.
Yeah.
I'm running with it."
Yeah, I think that some people in America's journalistic community aren't happy about this portrayal.
Right.
But if that's what she did and that's how she was, then that's how she was.
And I'm inclined to imagine that someone like Clint Eastwood is going to be fairly careful with his storytelling.
You'd think. I just want to, without spoiling it too much, because I think this is a film worth seeing, just deal with that Olivia Wilde's character just for a little bit more, to say there is a bit of an arc with what her character goes through.
Yeah, I'll give you that
from where
one.
it starts to where it ends. And actually, for me, that didn't work. I think if you've been a journalist that long, you know the emotional territory in which you're working.
Right.
You know how people would react to the stories you write.
Yeah.
And if you're being provocative, they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't buy that little aspect of it. What happened at the end?
I know. Well, you were sitting next to me when we saw this film together, and I could hear you going. I could tell you were not completely happy with her.
But in terms of a story, that was an important role.
Yeah.
She's a critical part of the story.
Yes.
And so, but back to what you were saying. The heart of the story is the relationship between Richard Jewell and his lawyer, and Richard Jewell and his mum. That's really...
Well, let's talk about the mum for a second there.
Kathy Bates,
Yes.
who plays Bobby.
Yes.
She's loves her son, embraces her son, knows he's not going to be the world's most successful man, doesn't care, is there to support him, thinks initially, oh, my son's a hero.
Yeah.
He's saved all these people. He's warned about the bomb. And then, of course, her world is turned upside down when the other part of the story kicks in.
But she never loses faith in him.
No.
And this is Kathy Bates, right? Yeah. But it's not misery Kathy Bates.
No.
It's not full-on Kathy Bates, because let's face it, even no matter how good those other two are, if she'd really gone full Kathy Bates on us, she would have eclipsed the pair of them. Yeah. And I love the fact that she dials it down, because she is an amazing screen presence. She's a phenomenal actor, but she dials it down to allow the other two to lead the story, and she steps back into the background a little bit, because her character is very, very important. But the film is Richard Jewell, not Richard's mum.
Yeah. And let's just talk a bit about Paul Walter Hauser playing Richard Jewell.
Yes.
As you say, he's not necessarily the most sympathetic character to begin with.
No.
And somehow, Paul Walter Hauser needs to find something in this person for us to get alongside with.
Yes.
And I think he did it.
He does.
The Richard Jewell character made a lot of mistakes. You cringe seeing his naivety and how trusting he is.
Yeah.
And it's a constant frustration to his lawyer, Watson Bryant. But there is a certain purity of thought about what he thinks a law enforcement officer is there to do.
Yes.
And he, in the end, is not going to let the fact that he's being screwed around by these other guys get in the way of his vision of what is right and wrong.
Yes.
And
that's a good way of putting it.
And so, somehow, through all his faults, you end up on his side.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah, very much so. And the Sam Rockwell character is fantastic.
Yes.
He is both frustrated by Richard Jewell, but he kind of loves him as well.
And what struck me about him and Kathy Bates in this was tie it back to what we were saying before about Marlon Williams.
Yeah.
Some actors will really embrace a character, and then they will act and they will perform and they will thesp on and others just are like, okay, I know how to do this. I've got this. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
And you might not even notice how brilliant I am.
Yeah.
That's how brilliant I'll be. And I felt that the pair of them, Bates and Rockwell both, did that. They just sort of like, it was effortless.
Yeah.
To the extent that I think that a lesser actor wouldn't have been able to act that little. A lesser actor would have felt the need to emote and to put more in. Those two know that they don't need to.
No, it's a strong enough story. You don't need to overact.
No.
I think when you look at it overall, John Hamm and Olivia Wilde are sort of the bad guys, if you like, have tougher jobs to do.
Yes.
And are possibly a little bit stereotypical in the way that they play it. It's not their fault necessarily, but that's kind of the hand they've been dealt in this particular role.
Yeah, I can go that.
And so we don't have... that was perhaps a slight weakness for me, but not a major one.
No.
A very, very strong story, draws you in. I thought Eastwood kept the pace up pretty well. Yeah. And you really want to know what's going to happen to this guy, and you care about what's going to happen to him. Yeah.
And a lesser filmmaker would have milked the explosion. But Eastwood knows that the best way for tension there is, we know the bomb's going to explode. Yeah. We know it's happening. It's not a spoiler. It's happened, you know. Yes. I remember it being on the news. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. So we know it's going to explode. And so that there is the tension. We don't know when it's going to explode. No. And so rather than doing the sort of the cliche sort of thing of like having, but you can imagine somebody might do, say, a split screen with a time bomb. He doesn't feel the need to do gimmicky sort of that. And when it explodes, you don't have the slow motion kaboom or any of that kind of nonsense. It's just boom. Yeah. There. And then you get a feeling of that actually really happened.
Yeah, you're right. I think what he did with that, combining it with the actual news footage of the time, really gives the film quite a credible edge, very much so. So it's not a sexy film in a way, but it's one of those films. It's about someone being done an injustice and the fight to put it right. It's it made me feel angry, and I against the media, even though I'm of the media. Yep. And it made me think. Well, sometimes lawyers do a bloody good job. Yes. And sometimes, often they do.
Yes, and also sometimes, but only sometimes, so do filmmakers.
That is so. Well done. And so, Eastwood's a bit of an interesting character. I know probably a lot of people diss him because he has overt Republican views, but you just put that to one side and just concentrate on his work as a filmmaker. This is a really well put together film and really well worth seeing.
Absolutely.
And it's due out on February the 13th in New Zealand.
And we would very, very definitely recommend that people get to see it. One film that we wouldn't recommend people to acknowledge the presence of is Like a Boss.
Like a Boss.
Like a Boss. Now that's a phrase that was really very, very current about 4 years ago, I think. So we're starting off with a film that's got a pop culture title that's already out of date.
Yeah, and it's trying to be one of those buddy movies. It's two women, one's black, one's white. They've known each other for years. We've got Rose Byrne playing Mel and Tiffany Haddish playing Mia, and they've set up their own business. Mel's they've got the business brain to keep it together and Mia's their creative one who doesn't care about the money. They're struggling, but they've got something going with their creative spirit, and then they realise, we really need some financial help. Along comes Claire Luna, played. I'll let you describe how Salma Hayek plays this role, but it's
no, I don't want to have to. No, because I'd have to think about it. Cartoonishly. In fact, I think you're the one who said, you'll take the line.
Oh well, she almost appears and acts like a Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, just without the depth.
Without the no, you're right. It's a cartoon performance. Yeah, obviously on purpose, but it. Why? What was? What I didn't. It left you puzzled.
Does she have credit card debt?
I don't know.
No, because there is so much wrong with this film. It doesn't know what it wants to be, first of all. So it lurches from set piece to set piece. So you've got, for example, the set pieces in the trailer where Mia is hanging off a balcony in
Claire Luna's office.
Exactly, yeah.
Headquarters.
So, yeah. You've got another set piece scene where they're doing a cooking lesson at someone's house.
Right.
Where we have to have repeated questionings of whether or not the young woman who's teaching them has a dick.
Right.
Which, okay, by all means do gags like that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're going to do them, there's one thing you have to do more than anything else, is make sure they're funny.
Yeah.
And these weren't. So you've got these set pieces that get milked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, you
No,
look
no,
like you're about to disagree with me, and you know I'm right.
No, in this I do. Yeah, they just tried to put too much in.
Yeah.
They tried to have the buddy movie, the two lifelong friends who, because of this new relationship with Claire Luna, their friendship is strained, and will they get back together again? So part of the story is about trying to tug at the heartstrings of that. Then you've got the slapstick comedy, as you said.
Yeah.
The vagina cake was another gag.
And not even that, but they couldn't just say, here's a vagina cake. They had to explain all the bits of the gag, because, clearly the audience are too stupid to understand the gag.
Yes. And that generally there was an attempt to try and put some risque lines here and there to try almost to say to the audience, "Oh, we're pretty edgy around here."
Yes.
But the story was in the end a very formulaic and safe story that you knew where it was going to take
Yes.
you. And as you say, Salma Hayek's character, which I suppose you could say that the other two lead actresses, Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish, were attempting to find some genuine humour, but Salma Hayek was, I come back to the word you used, cartoonish. It was
Really?
There was no particular attempt to do anything other than play a caricature.
Yeah.
And with no attempt to really explain why really she was like this or why she behaved like this. It was so false that you didn't. I don't know what you're meant to think of it.
So there's one scene where one of the two ladies asks her, does she have a really small head? And she replies, no, it just looks small because my breasts are so humongous.
Yes.
And you think, okay, will that raise a titter? Probably not, but that's the level the humour's operating at. It didn't work. And here's the weird thing. One of the sidekick characters, Sydney, played by Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes.
Who, I'm just curious now, how old must she be by now? No, there's a relevance to the question.
Okay.
Born in 1961.
Oh, so she's 58.
Yes.
59.
50, yeah, she's 58 yet, yeah. But the thing is that she was, the reason I know her was from the American Pie films, which tried to do a similar kind of edgy, raunchy kind of humour, but it worked so much better because it was teenagers. Teenagers doing sex gags is funny.
Yeah.
Grown women, mature adults doing sex gags just ends up being awkward and cringeworthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work as well. But Jennifer Coolidge played Stifler's mom.
Right.
Back then, which is why I was curious. So she played a teenager's mother.
Right.
Back 20 odd years ago. So I was curious to know how old she would be by now. And that sounds about right, actually, to be fair. Yeah. But it's interesting that she's in it when she harks back to this kind of edgy humour being done well. 'Cause American Pie was actually really quite funny. The spin-offs less so.
Yes.
But the first film actually genuinely was quite good. And I watched it again a few years ago because they released a follow-up sequel with the characters having aged a little bit, and I watched the original one just to see. It has held up reasonably.
Okay.
It's never going to be high art.
Yeah, but
that kind of humour can be done well, except when it's being done badly.
yeah, it's just I just found that the story was so predictable.
Yes.
So that's okay. You know what you're going to get, as long as the quality of the delivery is good. But I found it lame and predictable. I should say, and you mentioned Jennifer Coolidge as Sydney. I think she was one of the ones who did better. And the other sort of sidekick in The Office, Barrett, played by Billy Porter, was the one who did stole the movie. Yeah. And he had one great scene. Unfortunately, they spoiled it by showing it in the trailer.
So it's hardly a spoiler here now.
Yeah, but it's where he is fired and he says, I need to have my tragic moment.
Yes.
And it's a really nicely played scene.
Yeah.
It's the best scene in the film.
He's genuinely the only one in this film who knows what he's about and knows how to do it right.
Yeah.
And they underuse him, which is a shame. Rose Byrne is basically doing the same character that she's been doing for far too long now. This sort of self-aware rubbish white woman.
Yeah.
And she's Australian, and she can have
Is she?
Yeah.
I always thought she was. Is that right?
No, she's from Balmain in Sydney.
Oh, there you go.
And the thing is, she goes backwards and forwards. I don't know how directors decide what they want her to be.
Yeah.
So when she was in, I think she was in Neighbours, for example, with Seth Rogen. I think she was Australian in that.
Okay.
So, but for no particular reason.
Okay.
So she does this sort of slightly bumbling. I know I'm a little bit naff, middle class white woman shtick, and unfortunately she ends up sort of coming across as being sort of like a dollar store Ivanka Trump. Unfortunately, it's not a good look for her.
I mean, Tiffany Haddish, I think, has obviously got some talent as a comedic performer.
Yeah.
But it was all just sort of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
I think
she needs better material.
Yeah,
she really does, and this wasn't it. Like we're saying, it's formulaic. It's by the numbers. Okay, you can take a formulaic film,
yes,
and then if it's not about the destination, it has to be about the journey.
Yeah,
and this was a hell of a bumpy ride. The gags didn't land.
No.
It's
anyway.
I mean, so basically, you come away with it thinking, nah.
No, I wouldn't bother. But just quickly, I know we're getting on. But
I think you should.
Yes, so that was a formulaic film.
Oh, was it?
I did catch another extremely formulaic film of a completely different genre called Underwater.
Oh dear.
A sort of a sci-fi thriller. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Alien?
I do indeed.
With Sigourney Weaver et al.
How could I forget?
Think Alien Underwater.
Ooh.
And you've got this.
Oh dear.
Well, and it's interesting because it's this is a story of a time in the future. A company has found a way to drill down to the very deepest part of the ocean.
Okay.
Set up drilling stations underwater.
Okay.
A network of them. There's a team down there. Something goes wrong. The tunnels are starting to collapse. Something's attacking them. They've got to get out, get to a safe place. That's the story.
Right.
And it evokes the imagery and the plot journey of Alien to such an extent.
Well, your plot synopsis basically is Alien.
It is. I remember the opening shot of Alien.
Yeah.
You're on board the Nostromo,
yeah.
and the camera is slowly panning across the interior, and you're seeing the tunnels, and that's how this film opens.
Oh dear!
But it's underwater.
This isn't just formulaic; it's a remake.
Yeah, and you've got a strong woman lead,
okay,
a la Sigourney Weaver. This time, it's Kirsten Stewart. And she does really well.
Yeah.
You've got the captain of the crew and the various different characters, and who's going to be picked off in what order. You've got that whole scenario playing out. We've seen in so many of these sorts of films before.
Okay. Yeah.
Vincent Cassel, the French actor, is the captain. He's really good. I like him. But you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But actually, if it's what you said before, if you like this type of film, is the journey all right?
Yes.
Even if you know it's coming,
yeah,
even if it is derivative. I actually mostly quite liked it.
Oh, okay.
Just because
that's not what I was expecting to hear.
Well, I wasn't. There were no surprises in the story.
Right.
And some of the actors are a little bit too stereotypical, but the director does a good job of taking you underwater, making you feel claustrophobic. I think with all these sorts of films, it's the best part is before you see what the creature is.
Right.
The build-up of the tension.
Yes.
Once you see it,
yeah,
often it's a bit of a letdown because, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I felt that in this film very much, which is a shame.
Yes.
The less you see of it, the better.
Yeah.
But
which, to be fair, you could say much the same about Like a Boss.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Anyway, I won't say any more. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
There's a degree of quality in the way it's put together. Technically,
right.
Pacey direction, a few thrills and spills. That's not going to win an Oscar, but a diverting bit of entertainment.
Fair enough.
There you go. All right. So, having dealt with music and film. I know you've probably musicked out at the moment, but can we just see, is there much more to talk about, just stuff coming up in the next little while?
I mean,
I know you've talked about Queen coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, the two big names coming very shortly are Queen and Elton John.
Yeah. We've talked about them.
Yes, but there's one new one that I think might be of interest to you.
Oh.
Because I know you were very impressed, I remember last year, I think it was, with Alien Weaponry.
I was, yeah.
And they're going to be playing in Auckland very, very shortly.
Okay.
And they're going to be playing at Auckland's Town Hall on February the 29th.
Oh.
It's part of the, what are they calling this? The Auckland Fringe Town Festival.
Okay.
But they've announced their support act.
Oh, okay.
And it's a band called Shepherd's Reign. So one of the real sort of like points of interest, one of the unique selling points for Alien Weaponry is it's three Maori lads who sing exclusively or largely?
Not exclusively, but a lot in te reo, yes.
Exactly, yeah. And so their support band are a Polynesian metal band.
Oh.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we've got Philivar James on vocals. We've got Oliver Leopolo on guitar, Shaman Ramika on drums, Gideon Voon on guitars, and Joseph Otti George on bass. So with Pacific, Maori and Asian heritage, the band are all raised in South Auckland. So you've got a very, very strongly self-identified Maori and South Pacific bill here.
Yeah, that's great. And that's interesting because the opening band, sorry, what's the name of them again?
Shepherd's Reign.
Shepherd's Reign. So they're a South Auckland, that's urban.
Yep.
Right? If my memory serves me correctly, Alien Weaponry, there were two brothers and a third guy. They were from up north.
Yes.
So in Northland, not such an economically vibrant part of the country,
Yep.
so they bring a different experience to their music.
Yes.
So that's a really interesting balance to have in a concert.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, when I saw them, it was probably 2 years ago now. Alien Weaponry were still teenagers. So I think, look, I know what? If I can get there, I'll go and see that.
Well, here's something I think is really, really good, actually, to be honest. Right? Like I say, it's going to be Saturday the 29th of February at the Town Hall in Auckland. $35.
Okay.
Groups of 6, $25 each, which is not bad. Students, $20. So they're actually making this really, really accessible as well. I think that's really quite brilliant. So again, worth plugging once again, Alien Weaponry and Shepherd's Reign, Town Hall in Auckland, Saturday 29th of February.
Fantastic.
Definitely worth a nudge.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Steve. So, we've had a busy week.
We have indeed.
But thank you very much for watching and for listening. We're always very pleased to hear from you. You can email us at podcast@cravepodcast.com.
We're all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. You can find us at Crave Podcast.
Thank goodness for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Simon Mercer.
I'm Steve McCabe.
That's what's been entertaining us this week.
Absolutely. Well, that was a decent little knock.
A decent little knock. It was very good. Well done, sir.